Welcome to Blackwater Tech. Today I'm going to show you some tricks and tips for when you first set up your JJ, or maybe some stuff you want to do if you already own a JJ. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to put some rubber in between the aluminium housing. The reason we put some rubber squares in there, we normally use these, is that stops the galvanic corrosion between the steel rings on your wing and the aluminium housing here. So what you can do is cut some rubber or put a plastic disc inside. Now the easiest way I find to do it is to use a piece of bicycle inner tube. So I'm just going to cut a square. I start here. Okay, that's the first one. I'll just cut down the edge there, cut that in half like so, and then I'm just going to trim it up to make sure it's a better square. Okay, so to make a small hole, just going to fold in half again, and just nip the tiniest little corner off like so. You can then place that over the top. Okay, pretty straightforward. You can trim it up a bit if you want. Just going to take that folded edge off there. And that sits nicely on there. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now the top one, because it has to accommodate the webbing from the back plate as well, sometimes when you put this on it can leave not enough thread, so it's quite difficult to get this top screw on. So this could do with being a bit longer. But what you can do on this side is to cut the rubber into a small circle. So you see, I'm just taking a tiny piece off there. So you can put that in there. Then what you could do is get a Stanley knife and just cut inside. So I'm just going to do this very quickly. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can always spend a bit more time. There you go. So that makes that one easier to get on. By the time you put your wing, your back plate and your counterlungs, you'll have enough thread coming through. So that's just one of the little tips I'd give you just to stop the corrosion. I had a rebreather for many years, JJ, and this started to corrode here. But this does the trick well. Alright, the next little tip I'm going to give you is we're going to put some bungee loops around here to hold the first stages when the unit's not in use. Quite often you can take your tanks off and then the first stages hang down, and I've actually damaged my overpressure valve before and caused some cosmetic damage to the first stage. So you take two 30cm pieces of bungee. I'm using 4mm bungee for my demonstrations here, but you can use 5mm bungee. So I've already cut them to length. Remember, you just want to pull the fabric over and burn the ends off, just so it seals the rubber inside. Okay, so what we do with this is we're going to go down through there, just tie a quick reef knot, left over right, right over left. So actually these are 35cm lengths. And then if you pull it really tight, what happens is the shock cord will bite into itself and then it won't come undone. Okay, then I rotate it round so that the knot's up here, and then you can just hang your first stage off the thread when you're not using it. Let's do the other side. Okay. I'm just pulling it tight so it bites into itself. Okay. And that'll sit there nicely, and you can hang your first stages off there when there's no tanks attached. Okay, the last tip I'm going to give you, and this is my good friend Chopper. Many years ago he told me this, probably about 12 years ago now, and I've done it on all my rebreathers and all my students' rebreathers ever since. Take 50 centimeters of 4 or 5 millimeter bungee, and what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to loop it over here, around there. Just going to tie once again another reef knot in there. 50 centimeters is just enough. Get that nice and tight, and then I'll just, that's probably a bit too loose there. Okay, so the reason I've done that is this gives you somewhere to put your hoses in when you're setting the rebreather up. So if you remember, the high pressure hose comes here, the low pressure hose goes there, and then you can put your O2 and deal hoses lying in there. So just as an example, I've got the O2 side here. Remember, when you're setting up, to split the high pressure and the low pressure hoses around the upright, this upright here. Okay. And then these hoses go under the bungee, and it just makes setting it up. If you're traveling and you're having to disassemble your rebreather for travel, take it apart for some reason, it makes life a lot easier when you're then trying to sit your wing on top and counter lungs and back plate, particularly on the diluent side there, because you find you're constantly lifting and checking, and you feel like you don't have enough hands. So that's a really good way of just holding that into position. And then, as you can see here, you can just hook the DIN fitting into the bungee loop like so. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you all. Any problems, any questions, just drop me a line. If you like my video, give me a like, send me a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much.